That time for the question and answer video. As you know, every trip, so when I go out on these outings, I'll be answering questions from the comment section below on the last video that we did. So from the last video, we'll start it out and go down and try to answer pretty much all the questions. I'm sure eventually more and more people will ask questions, and I'll just have to pick a few good ones. But for right now, it wasn't too many on the last one there, you know. And so we'll go down the list. Let's just see what we got. Let's start out. A couple of people. Fishing Noob asked the question, does Big Bear Lake have inlets and outlets? He noticed it on the maps. It looks like there's a few streams. The answer to that question is yes, it does have inlets, and it has one outlet. The inlets are a few. They're all seasonal though. There's only one very small creek that kind of runs year round over there near the bays, like Boulder Bay area, but it's like a trickle by, you know, so midsummer it's not even really an inlet. But there are, I would say, a total of 3 right here at Juniper Point. If you can see where I'm at, right in that cove along where they call it the dike, where the road Stansfield's cut off, right at the south side of that cutoff, there's an inlet there that flows pretty good in the early spring when snow melt is heavy. That flows pretty good. And of course, over there, like I said, in Boulder Bay, and then there's Grout Bay near Windy Point is another major inlet. So it does have them, but the only outlet is the dam. So that's it. There's no other way out of this lake, and it's part of the reason why it's so stagnant, because there's not a lot of flow in and out of this lake. Let's see, where are you fishing in this video was asked, and I was 4 likes on that one. So the answer to that question is in Utah. That's the closest that I'm gonna give, guys. Unfortunately, that lake is a very sensitive lake, and I would never just put that one out there like that. There are gonna be opportunities for information on that lake on my Patreon page, but it isn't gonna be ever gonna be just outed by name on the channel. Unfortunately, it's just too sensitive. I wouldn't want it to get destroyed, and it's just not like that. I just can't do that. Some spots are just need to be protected, and that's one of them. So there's the answer to that. Let's see, is there a different strategy? Jeff Van DeBroek says, is there a strategy for reeling in a fish on a barbless hook and opposed to a regular hook? That's a great question, and the answer to that is there is a different strategy. With a treble hook, so let's say I'm using a like a Thomas lure, and it comes with a treble hook. If I take that down to a single barbless or barbless at all, but he just said barbless hook, but assuming, you know, most barbless setups are single hook barbless, and in those instances, it's where you struggle is the hook sets. Fish tend to, you know, on a lure, they tend to go after it, and the nature, you know, the erratic nature of a lure swimming just creates the situation where a fish might not get a good bite on that hook. And if you're throwing barbless or a single hook, there is a good chance that you'll lose it. The key with the barbless hook in general, though, to understand is, and it's important even with treble hooks, don't get me wrong, but it's especially as important with a barbless hook is to keep tension. You want to have tension on that line. And why? Because with a barbed hook, the fish hook has a less chance of coming out of, you know, out of the fish's mouth, because what happens is that hook, as it's in there, as you're reeling in, is drilling a hole. As the lure moves like that, it drills a hole around the center of the hook. Well, if that barb is the only thing keeping it in there, if you're barbless, man, that hook is just going to pop right out. So same concept. Really what you need to do, though, is just keep tension And I would, with a barbless setup, I would not give the fish as much time reeling it in that I would on a barbed hook. I would be more confident letting the fish tire out on a barbed setup versus a non-barbed setup. A barbless setup, I tend to much faster reel in. So yeah, there are some changes there. There definitely are, mainly with a hook set and keeping tension. You want to make sure you got a solid hook set and make sure you keep a lot of tension on that barbless setup. And see, Huck Outdoors, what metal would you toss if you could not get any more Thomas lures? And that's another great question, because I pretty much only throw Thomas lures these days. But if I had to pick one, it would probably be, oh man, that's tough, because with the universal factor of that, like just all that, I don't mind. I don't know, man. That's why it's a good question, because that's tough. Good question. But I would say probably I really like those what is it, the Clio, the little Clio. The reason why, because they're similar to a buoyant. They have that spoon shape, and I like the Z spoons a lot, but I can't really find those anywhere anymore. So I have a few. I would probably use a Z spoon because they're making pretty good colors and patterns. Let's see. I would probably pick a lot more. If I had to pick one that's non-Thomas, it would be the Phoebe. The Phoebe lure is one of them too. I really like all of those lures that they make. The Phoebe, because Thomas has a copycat Phoebe called a Fighting Fish, and I really like that lure a lot. So yeah, there's not very many. I mean, that's a tough one. There's not a lot of choices there. Where is the best place to fish from shore on Crowley Lake, or places I should say. Shore fishing on Crowley is kind of tough. A lot of weeds on that lake most of summer, and it almost requires a boat. Early season, you have a bigger choice than you would in the late season, like in the summer, early fall. But generally speaking, you want to be, I would say, on the northwest shoreline is really good. But you need an off-road vehicle to safely get down there and back. But northwest shore, it's called the North Landing. If you Google that, you can see the North Landing area is pretty good. But another good area access, because they have the Crowley Fish Camp, but you got to pay. You're basically paying $20 to go fish on the shoreline of a public lake, and it's kind of weird. So I don't know. Yeah, there is the Crowley Fish Camp, which leads you to the Hilton. You can get into some of the creek beds over there where they come in, and that's an advantage there. Hilton Creek, McGee Creek, Inlets. Those are really good places to fish in the early spring. So basically right when the opener hits, you want to go there. Go to those inlets and fish those areas, and then those will remain pretty good all the way until the weeds kind of take over, and then it's no good from shore. But those are the better ones. And then there's Crooked Creek. Access is tough there. It's right off the highway. You got to walk down on the south side. If you Google Crooked Creek, you can get to those spots. Really good drop off in that area from shore, and it can be really good fishing. Usually in the fall is a good time to hit that area.